We've seen a big push for diversity lately, pretty much everywhere, in companies, the government, the media. But at the same time, a program to get more BIPOC teachers into Portland schools is being cut. At least that's what alumni say.
It was like, I know, like we were backstabbed. Just having the rug pulled from underneath you.
So we've got some questions.
If they are so important and the program was so important, then how did we even get to this point?
Okay, let's go through the Portland Snow Preps checklist. Have you stocked up on kale? Check. Are you prepared to ditch your car on the freeway? Check. Are you sufficiently freaked out yet? You'll get there. Here's the story. Do not ditch your car on the freeway. Don't do it. I know you're thinking about it. I would too if I were stuck in snow for hours on end. Don't do it, okay? Welcome to The Story. Hi, I'm Dan Haggerty. This is The Story. I think we've said that a few times. All the contact information, we want to hear from you tonight at the bottom of your screen. Use that hashtag HeyDan. You can email us at thestory@kgw.com. Find me on Facebook. Pretty much anything you look for online, you can find me, all right? Meanwhile, I do want to talk about this weather for just a moment, because we usually don't cover weather on this show, but considering the forecast, how can we not? So it's time for a new segment called Look Out for Snow! Maybe. We might get some, or a lot. It can really be hard to predict, honestly. Sometimes it just depends on where you live. But I guess, for now, we should at least be prepared for some snow. Or more, or none. We'll see. Mageddon.
Well, we've become really quite sure that we're going to get snow and that there's going to be significant snow in the Portland area, but the amounts will vary from location to location, so we'll dig into that just a bit. Cold air is already seeping down into eastern Oregon and Washington. That's going to punch through the gorge during the day on Thursday. At the same time, this moisture comes in from off the Pacific. Those two things come together, and voila, we get snow. So at first, it'll just be rain. But as it gets colder through the day tomorrow, that rain will turn to snow in Portland. It's going to continue overnight Friday and into Saturday, Thursday night and into Friday, and then another system Friday night and into Saturday. So there's actually several. And if you run our snowfall totals out, this gives us about 5 inches between Thursday night and into Friday evening at 7 o'clock. But again, we may double those amounts by Saturday as the next system comes on in. So again, it's going to be very wintry around here. For that reason, Portland under a winter storm warning. The gorge is under a blizzard warning. How about 8 inches of snow and winds of 70 miles an hour? So it's going to be really rough out there. The headlines remain basically the same, 2 to 6 inches of snow around the Portland area through Thursday night into Friday morning. Freezing rain south and west of town, and again, that blizzard out in the gorge. Back to you.
All right, thank you to Matt. Now let's turn to our big story. You may remember, a few months ago, you didn't know this. A few weeks ago, you saw the story on air. But a few months ago, the Today Show, they called us and they wanted to talk to Kristen Severance about the teachers at Woodlawn Elementary. They apparently saw our story. They saw our series Inside Woodlawn that Kristen's been working on and wanted the country to meet these educators. They interviewed 2 self-described unicorns from Woodlawn, black male first grade teachers. And the piece, it just resonated with people. All right, they started getting mail from all over the country and questions about the local program that helped them and many other teachers of color get a degree and enter the classroom. Now, this is the part where I tell you that program has ended. Kind of. Depends on who you ask. Here's Kristen Severance.
And we wanted to set the record straight from our voices and not.
These Portland teachers are speaking out.
They know they need teachers of color.
About what they say really happened to the 30-year program to get educators of color into Oregon classrooms. The Portland Teachers Program, or PTP.
We need to stand up for injustices and stand up when we see something that's not right. I mean, that's the whole value of our programs.
Well, I really do want to welcome all of you to the 30th anniversary.
Deborah Cochran ran PTP for 3 decades with the mission statement of listen, learn, and serve. The program started in the 80s after calls from the community to get more black teachers in Portland public school classrooms, calls we still hear today. The intense teacher training program focused on anti-racism, learning other cultures, and embracing your own.
Racism, white supremacy, like we talk about so many things that you don't talk about in a normal program. but that you need to talk about to deal with to actually be an efficient and effective teacher.
The program worked through a four-way partnership. Teachers would go to undergrad at Portland Community College and then get their master's degree at Portland State University. Portland or Beaverton school districts would hire the teachers. Nearly 300 teachers of color graduated as PTP teachers.
More than anything, PTP has simply been about the struggle to become whole human beings who can help our children become whole human beings.
Lindell Stone found PTP starting his second career.
For me, PTP gave me a sense of focus, a sense of purpose.
It's honestly...
Brianna Vance said PTP helped her discover who she was supposed to be.
I started changing like the way that I lived my life. I started making better decisions, and it was because Deborah would push us to be better. PTP means many
And PTP grad Mercedes Munoz went on to be the 2020 Oregon Educator of the Year.
One of my first years in PTP, and Deborah just like got all up in my face, and she was like, when you get hired, it is going to be because you are the best. Not because you are black, not because you are a woman, but because you are the best practitioner at what it is that you do.
The program costs $500,000 a year to pay for the tuition and fees for PTP students at PSU. And in the spring of 2019, like so many colleges, Portland State University was facing a budget crisis. PSU College of Education Dean Marvin Lynn told the current PTP students they would have to pay half their tuition. A shock to students and not part of the deal.
It was like, I know, like we were backstabbed. Just having the rug pulled from underneath you and saying, oh, this is over is heartbreaking.
And when you have a group of graduates in the middle of their term telling them that they're not going to be able to finish, that they've got to come up with all kinds of money on the fly with no warning, I don't feel like that's honoring the contract.
That decision was later reversed. Those PTP students finished the program without paying tuition at PSU.
First, I'd like to congratulate the Portland Teachers Program on its long...
Dean Lynn talked about it briefly at a celebration ahead of graduation in 2019.
Let's make sure we support our long-standing, successful programs, right? We don't have to invent something new. We've got it.
This caused a rift between the alumni and Dean Lynn. In a new letter written by PTP alumni addressed to the community, alumni said PSU was not transparent during this process. The partners didn't fight hard enough to keep the program going. And PTP's director, Deborah Cochran, resigned in protest over the, quote, difficulties of dealing with PSU leadership, the silence and lack of support from the other partners, and long-standing inaction at the state level, as well as a refusal to be part of the dysfunction that was impacting students and the integrity of the program. There has been no PTP director since December of 2019. They haven't accepted new students into the program since 2017. When they do accept new PTP students, some of them will have to pay half their tuition at PSU, and they probably won't use the PTP name because the alumni asked them not to.
No.
Despite all of that, Dean Marvin Lynn has been adamant PTP was never over.
I think it's unfortunate that our alumni believe that. That's not true. The program has not ended. The program is moving forward. The program is going to change a little bit. Some of that is because of the cost containment measures that I talked about. And that is something that all public universities are dealing with.
It's easy for them to say that this is still PTP because they don't know what PTP is.
Alumni like Woodlawn first grade teacher Lionel Clegg say without Cochran there to train the new director, without all the alumni to act as mentors or take on student teachers, and without full tuition waivers, it's just not the same successful program they went through.
You can't copy something that's genuine and sit here and just put a stamp on it and say that it's still the same thing. It's not.
If there's a program, if you don't have any of your PTP alumni supporting it or backing it, I wouldn't go for it. It's not going to be the same thing.
They say Dean Lynn's insistence that PTP is alive and well shows a real lack of understanding about what made this program so successful for so many years.
And I know personally, that in raising some of the concerns privately with Dr. Lynn, it was just like a big circle. I'm going to circumvent what you're talking about, and this is my agenda. And by the way, will you do this? I think he's missing the ability to listen, learn, and serve.
Lynn, who became dean in the summer of 2017 and made budget cuts soon after, said he understands why some people blamed him for these issues.
I certainly would too if a new person came in asking questions and then was faced with a budget challenge and had to make some decisions right away that changed the nature of the program. You know, I'm a person who is, as I said before, this is my life's work. It's teacher diversity. So I'm excited about that.
In a group Zoom, Dean Lynn and the other partners said their commitment to PTP is real.
I don't think this program can thrive without the support of the alumni community.
My big question, though, is if they are so important and the program was so important, then how did we even get to this point? Why cut tuition? Why kind of let some of these issues happen?
Resources in our institutions are not infinite. I mean, there are serious limitations to what we can and cannot do.
The partners hope to meet with PTP alumni on February 19th to, quote, help shape the future of the program. These alumni say a new PTP is just not PTP at all.
I would say to PSU, you can try, but you don't have the secret sauce.
Because you know you didn't put the work in, you didn't build the foundation, you weren't there when times were really hard, so you can't say that you are continuing something.
Okay, Kristen Severance joining me now. One thing I found interesting during the piece is that PSU kept saying that the program never ended, but it sure seemed like it ended. They weren't even bringing in any new students, right?
Right.
But something, at least they have a plan for something at PSU at this point.
Right. Something, there is going to be a scholarship for, teachers of color at PSU. The money is set aside. You heard Dean Lynn and all of the partners say they are committed to that. But you also heard the alumni say that they are not part of it, and the former director, she did resign. So according to them, that is not the Portland Teachers Program. To them, that is something else.
Got it. Kristen, thank you. Talk about a perfect storm. Seniors can finally get their vaccines in Oregon after waiting for weeks, but the weather might have other plans. And we got a lot of questions from you about Portland being the only major city in the country without police body cams. Like, why haven't we heard from Joanne Hardesty? We've got some answers when the story continues. Welcome back. We've been showing you some clips from the KGW vault of a big snowstorm that hit Oregon back in 1969. They called it the Big Snow. Does anybody remember that? I want to hear, if you do, I want to hear some of your best Portland snow stories. And I know you have some because this town doesn't exactly function very well when it snows. So please send them my way. Send them to the story at kgw.com or use the hashtag HeyDan. Now, we've been getting a lot of questions about how the snow is going to impact the vaccine rollout this week, especially for seniors and people who have to drive into those vaccination locations. Pat Doris has been following that for us. But before we bring in Pat, I want to read this comment that we got last night from Audrey. She said, "Hey Dan, absolutely love Trucker Hat Pat. It made me happy. He's so great." Now, if you missed it, Pat made an appearance in our KGW Vault segment from last night on the 1996 floods. There he is, reporting from the floodwaters in downtown Lake Oswego. So, let's bring in Trucker Hat Pat. Pat, you haven't aged a day. You have not aged a day. So,
thank you.
So give me the details. First of all, are there any backup plans for seniors who have appointments over the next couple of days for the vaccine?
Yes, the organizers say that if the snow gets bad, they may start the vaccination clinics late, they may close them early. Worst case scenario is they'll shut the whole thing down. And if you feel that you can't get out there safely, they said, don't worry about it. Don't come. We'll have someone contact you and you'll be rescheduled. You're not going to have to go back in line and then try and get an appointment again. You will get a follow-up appointment.
Now, I know people have been struggling to get appointments to begin with, and here we have the possibility of snow slowing things down. And then next week, we open up the vaccinations to more people, 75 and up. So do we know how many 80-year-olds and older have gotten their vaccines at this point, knowing that so many people are going to be fighting for those spots next week?
Well, in the greater Portland area, there were 5,000 slots that were opened up this past Monday. And we've just learned that there's going to be another 4,500 opened up tomorrow morning, Thursday morning at 9 a.m. They'll be competing with people who are still in the 1A group, still trying to get shots, but there will be thousands available. And so I think we can safely say that by Tuesday of next week, there'll be 5,000 in the 80-plus category that have gotten their shots. The governor told me yesterday that about 20% of all 80-year-olds in the state have already gotten shots, mostly because they live in assisted living or, nursing homes, that sort of thing. But as far as that 80-year-old category that just started, man, we're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate it, Pat. Or should I say trucker hat, Pat? That's going to stick. I hope you know. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Now, let's take a quick look at where we stand kind of overall with the vaccines. As of this afternoon, more than 443,000 Oregonians have gotten at least their first dose. Some have gotten their second dose, but this works out to people with their first dose, almost 10.5% of the state's population with that first shot. Now, Washington, they update their vaccine numbers 3 times a week. So as of the last update, which was yesterday, more than 741,000 people have gotten at least one dose there. That's a little less than 10% of the state's population. Now, last night on the story, Kyle Aboshi had a big investigation on why Portland is the only major city in the U.S. where police don't wear body cams. Now, both the Police Bureau and the union say they want them. They want these cameras, but right now, it all just costs too much money. Now, if you missed the story, you can check it out right now on KGW's YouTube channel. We got a lot of comments from a bunch of people about this and some questions, too. So we decided to bring Kyle back to answer a few of them.
The most common question we received surrounded City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty and her position on body-worn cameras. As Michael wrote, I was interested in the body cam story. I even mentioned them in an email to you last summer, but I was surprised you made no mention of City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty's publicly stated opposition to them. You should get her justification, which is a good point. We actually reached out to her office in researching this story. She declined to comment. In a 2019 press release, Hardesty called on Mayor Ted Wheeler to defund police body cams. And in June 2020, she tweeted, "We often hear that body cameras will provide police accountability, but I disagree. I believe they are an expensive false solution. Many studies have shown there is no correlation between body cameras and police behavior." We're hoping to follow up with all of the city commissioners to get their position on body-worn cameras in the next few days. Carroll also took issue with body cameras, saying technology body cams will not change or end the violence and harm that police inflict on people, which is something we did touch on in the story, although we certainly could have spent a lot more time talking about it. Here's a clip. Nationwide, the evidence surrounding body-worn cameras has been mixed. It's not clear if they really alter police behavior or improve trust between police and the community. You are under arrest. But we have seen how these small cameras can provide an independent record of questionable or deadly encounters. To your point, a researcher at the Urban Institute who studied body-worn cameras said a camera alone isn't going to drastically change how police operate. The effectiveness also depends on when officers are required to turn them on, whether they must review the video before writing police reports, and whether they're released to people involved in an incident or the public. And finally, Stephen asks, what happened to the $834,000 in one-time resources and $1.8 million in ongoing resources allocated to support the implementation of a body-worn camera program? I reached out to the mayor's office today that said, due to the budget deficit, that money's been diverted to other city needs. It's no longer available. Kyle Aboshi, KGW News.
Hey, if you have more questions, let us know. Let Kyle know. Use that hashtag #HeyDan. All right, I'm going to read some of your comments and questions to finish the story up next.
I know that winter brings snow and ice, but the first storm was plenty, and twice ought to suffice. I'm tired of shoveling snow and putting on chains. I tell you frankly, I can't wait till it rains. This is Ronald Holden reporting from beautiful downtown Portland.
1969. A lot of you remember this. You've been hitting us up all during the show. I'll read a couple right now on Twitter. Scrappy Lou said, I remember the 1969 snowstorm in Eugene. They closed schools. We had a bonfire, sledded down the hill for hours. It was glorious. My parents saw it differently. It was hellish for them because our pipes were frozen, and nothing worked. Yeah, things are a little different. Kids and parents viewing those sorts of things. Laura said, I remember the big snowstorm of 1969. We had just moved from Utah and wondering why everybody was so worried. Yeah, that makes sense. So on Facebook today, just talking about the potential for snow, I put something out there and I said, what is the most cliche, cringe, ridiculous, funny thing the local news does when we're covering crazy weather? It's still up there right now, so if you want to weigh in, go onto my Facebook page. A couple of my favorites that I got. Autumn Dre said, I'm that weird lady who loves hours on hours of snowstorm coverage. I love the snow. I'll have it on all day in the background. A lot of people are like that. Teresa Moyer said, reporters asking people to stay home and not drive, all while the reporters then don't stay home and go out and drive around every location. Yeah, we do that. And then Kimberly Cunningham said, I just can't grasp the trace to 12 inches forecasted. My heart wants this foot of snow. My mind is annoyed that I might actually realistically only get about a trace. I don't understand people who want it to snow. My mom loves when it snows. I like looking outside and seeing the snowfall, but then it sticks around for a while. Even if you loved it, let's say I sent a 5-star chef over to cook dinner for you tonight. That would be great. But then what if I told you he was staying for a week? You'd be like, you know what? I'm good. Get on my Facebook page. Tell me what you think. Who knows what's going to happen? Listening to Matt, he sounds like he kind of knows. We have more from him coming up at 6:30, a more in-depth forecast than you got during this show here in the story. But let me know what you think. Let's keep talking during this snowfall. I got to head out and go to the grocery store. Toilet paper, what else? Wine, for sure, some other things. That's the story. I'll see you back here tomorrow. So what else do I need to get?